Welcome to Shout Victory. This is Minister Tashia Gilmore. We're continuing our study on the Lord's Prayer. We've been talking about forgive us our trespasses as we forgive those who trespass against us. One of the things I was thinking about is just the many stories that we find in the Bible regarding forgiveness. And the one I wanted to talk about today was Jacob and Esau. And I think most people are familiar with that story. If you're not familiar with the story, it takes place in Genesis, and it's a story that goes over several chapters of Genesis. You can pick it up in chapter 25, and it goes all the way through to chapter 33. And what we found with these two brothers, the brothers were twins, and they fought each other to even get out of the womb. So they had this relationship where they were constantly just at odds with each other. And they were both so very different. Esau was a man's man, and he was out in the field, and he was favored by his father. And then Jacob was someone who preferred to be in the house, and he was favored by his mother. So we found that each parent had chosen a son to favor, and that only added to their issues between one another. And then Jacob, in an act of treachery, had gotten his brother's birthright. The birthright was very significant to that culture. We don't really think of that today, but the firstborn received 2/3 of the inheritance. So they got the majority of the inheritance, and they also got their father's blessing. And Jacob tricked his brother out of his inheritance, and his brother gave away his inheritance. And then even beyond that, the brothers continued to be at odds. It had gotten so bad that Jacob had to flee his brother. And he thought for sure his brother was out to get him. It came to a point where the angel of the Lord told Jacob to go home, to go back to his people, because he had fled and he had lived in exile, because not only did he steal his brother's birthright, he also stole the blessing that was due the firstborn son. And his brother brewed with anger against him. When we pick up in the story, we're picking up in Genesis 33, and I want to just read this briefly. This is after the angel of the Lord told Jacob to go back home, and Jacob is headed back home, and he knows when he gets there, he will have to deal with Esau, and he's not sure how Esau will respond to him. So Jacob sends an offering ahead of him, and then he has all of his family with him, and he's hoping that his brother will receive him. Verse 4. Verse 3, he himself went on ahead, and this is Jacob, went on ahead and bowed down to the ground 7 times as he approached his brother. But Esau ran to meet Jacob and embraced him. He threw his arms around his neck and kissed him, and they wept. Then Esau looked up and saw the women and the children. Who are these with you, he asked. Jacob answered, they are the children God has graciously given your servant. And then Esau asked him, well, what's the meaning of all the flocks and herds I met? Jacob replied, to find favor in your eyes, my lord, he said. But Esau said, I already have plenty, brother. Keep what you have for yourself. In the story of Jacob and Esau was deceived, he was mistreated, He was robbed. He was taken advantage of. And he had every right to be angry at his brother. But what we see is a beautiful gift of forgiveness that he gave his brother. His brother is bowing down at the ground in order to say, I'm sorry, I'm sorry, I'm sorry. It was symbolic of wanting to be received by someone. So he bows down. And Esau, he responds by running up to Jacob and embracing him. I wanted to share this story because it's such a powerful story of forgiveness. If there was ever a cause to not forgive, what Jacob had did to Esau was really unforgivable. But what we see is in all the years that separated them, God went on to bless Jacob. And Jacob had a change of heart, and he turned to God. And during that time, God was able to work on Esau and Esau's heart. And he brought both of them reunited again in love. If there was ever a message that encompasses how we too need to be, this is it. Walking in forgiveness and united in love. This is Minister Tashia Gilmore. Live a life of victory.